this is a forever question. So Berky is a very well-known brand that incorporates fundamentally activated carbon adsorption technology. And this has an ability to remove contaminants from the water, certain contaminants, certain categories of contaminants. RO, which is reverse osmosis, and one of the technologies I'm responsible for developing long ago in the early 1970s, reverse osmosis is certainly the reigning technology of the day because it's capable of even turning seawater into fresh water. And it's used worldwide and is one of the great standards of water technology. But there's, with all of the contaminants we're seeing in municipal water, etc., especially the new category of contaminants, you've heard the term forever contaminants, especially these products, PFOAs and PFOSs. These are the forever chemicals that are the result of using chemistry that repels water and also is a non-stick coating for pans. This has become spread throughout the world, and I'm told that virtually anyone in the world who does a blood test, they can find PFOAs and PFOSs in the water. So here we go. So how do we remove all these new categories of chemicals? My approach, my conclusion is that there's only two ways that can remove it safely without risking the unknown of when you need to change filters. RO plus activated carbon and distillation plus activated carbon. With the Berky, you only have activated carbon. They do have a special cartridge for removing fluoride from the water, but that is another topic entirely. So when you have a carbon filter, and I want everyone to understand this, all the contaminants that are removed by a carbon filter stay in the carbon filter, okay? They are going to stay there, and with time, they keep increasing and increasing, and each one of those contaminants reaches a point where the carbon cannot hold it anymore. And most consumers don't have any clue of when that is because there is no easy way to determine it. With reverse osmosis plus activated carbon, the reverse osmosis membrane doesn't retain anything. It separates the pure water and it flushes away automatically the contaminants. So if you look at an RO membrane 5 years later from the time you first used it, it will look exactly and perform exactly like it was when it was brand new. Now there are some things, some contaminants can sneak through an RO membrane, especially those with a low molecular weight, and those contaminants are then removed by the carbon filter that's after it. But this makes it very easy on the carbon, and the carbon lasts a long time because it's so protected by the reverse osmosis membrane. So these days, you know, even though Berky had its day, it's not enough for the very health-minded consumer if they're interested in removing every contaminant that one can find in the municipal water supply, from heavy metals to pharmaceuticals to solvents, pesticides, herbicides. There is nothing that matches RO plus activated carbon or a more old-fashioned technology, distillation plus activated carbon. And I think there was a question, Desiree, on the testing of water products.
Yes.
So this right now, in the marketplace, there is a lot of talk about Berky not having been tested like other products, and why it's even had restrictions placed on it from being sold, and the EPA supposedly, I think, is making some action against Berky. And from my perspective, and I think it is justified to step back and take a look at Berky. Now, I'm saying 20 years ago, the water industry decided that it needs some standards to rate and measure the performance of products being sold to consumers. And this job was taken up by something called the NSF. It was originally named NSF for National Sanitation Laboratories because they tested everything from plates and sponges and dishwashers, etc., for the sanitary use in a public food serving domain. But they decided to take on this job of being the ones in America to test water treatment products. And this is a very serious undertaking because it's done in an international way with the International Standards Institute organization, and also something called ANSI, American Standard National Institute. This is a very serious undertaking. So NSF, National Sanitation Labs, that's just called NSF now. They don't use the sanitation in their name anymore. So they decided that they are going to undertake this job, and they decided to get experts in the world of water treatment to come and help write those standards. We knew, and I just happened to be chosen because of my expertise in the reverse osmosis technology, and they knew they needed that because it was the up-and-coming technology. They brought in a dozen or so experts, and we spent 5 years coming up with those standards. And they finally published them. They got approved internationally, and these are the water standards. Now, NSF did NSF testing, and they have standards. They have a standard for distillers, they have a standard for carbon filters, they have a standard for reverse osmosis, a standard for every type of water system. Now, they licensed that standard because millions were spent on developing that standard. They licensed that standard to other laboratories. And the two other laboratories that licensed it was one, the Water Quality Association Gold Seal program, and a company called IATMO. And IATMO is a testing laboratory in California. Water Quality Association is in Chicago, and NSF is in Michigan. So these are the three laboratories that truly use these rigorous standards, and it costs a lot for a manufacturer to test under those standards. Just start at $50,000 per product that you make, okay? So it's a big guy's business. You have to come up with it. It takes months and months to test your product. So these are the three laboratories. Now this, if you do not test to one of those three laboratories, your information is very questionable. And the questionable part is, what standard did you test to? And there's been a lot of, shall we say, unscrupulous claims that your company tested to a particular standard, but often they do not, or do not test the whole standard. So you have to verify that one of those three companies, NSF, IATMO, and Water Quality Association Gold Seal, actually have the product you're looking at mentioned and listed in their list of tested products on their website. So that's a guideline. Berky never, to best of my knowledge, never tested their products to those standards, and they gave lots of excuses. One, they said, "Oh, our technology is so proprietary. We were afraid people would take it." I've heard everything coming from Berky. But the point is that a carbon filter alone is not going to give great results. if you really test to the standard. Now, where do they fail? They fail in just one thing. When you test to the true standards of NSF, WQA, and IAPMO, you have a minimum amount of water that you have to subject the filter to. Well, I have found in my investigation that Berky did not follow those rigorous standards. And so they passed when they shouldn't have passed. And that's where I'm at right now. So, conclusion, if you are very concerned about the contaminants you're exposed to in drinking water and the water you prepare food with, you better make sure that your product that you're buying is tested to one of the three standards, NSF, IAPMO, and WQA.